On the morning of November 17th, 2025, while the heavy machinery of the Western media was busy analyzing stock markets and petty political scandals, something biblical was unfolding in the red dust of West Africa. If you looked at the satellite imagery over Ouagadougou just 18 months ago, all you would have seen was barren land and the skepticism of the international community. They said Burkina Faso was collapsing. They said Ibrahim Traoré was nothing more than a soldier with a gun and a borrowed clock. But look closely at the images emerging today. Rising from that same dust is not a military base, not a prison, and not a foreign-owned mine stripping the earth of its gold. Standing there, defiant against the skyline, is the largest science and technology university in the history of the region. This is not just concrete and glass. This is the most dangerous weapon Ibrahim Traoré has ever deployed against the old colonial powers. It is a weapon that does not fire bullets, but fires the one thing the West has always feared in Africa, which is independent, sovereign intelligence. For decades, the unspoken rule was simple. Africa digs the holes, and the West refines the resources. Africa exports the raw material and imports the finished technology. But on this day, that rule was shattered. As the first sunlight hit the solar panels of the new campus, a chilling realization swept through the intelligence agencies in Paris and Washington. They realized that Traoré is not just trying to secure his borders. He is trying to liberate the African mind. But here is the question that should keep every strategist awake at night. How did a young captain, in a country under siege by terrorism, build a futuristic institution in less than 2 years when wealthy nations take a decade to argue over a budget? And more importantly, why are major global corporations suddenly canceling their contracts in neighboring countries to move their headquarters to Burkina Faso? The answer involves a secret strategy, a divine resilience, and a vision so bold it might just save the entire continent or plunge it into a new kind of war. To truly understand the magnitude of this event, we must look past the headlines and look into the eyes of the people. Imagine a 70-year-old farmer in the rural north of Burkina Faso. For his entire life, he has seen men with guns come and go. He has seen foreign aid trucks drop off bags of rice stamped with flags of countries that extract billions from his soil. He has watched his children grow up with only 2 options: carry a weapon or migrate to a Europe that does not want them. But today, that farmer is standing at the gates of the Burkina Faso Institute of Science, Technology, and Innovation, holding the hand of his granddaughter. She is not learning how to serve tourists or how to speak perfect French for a diplomat. She is enrolling in a program for robotics and agricultural genomics designed to turn the Sahel desert into farmland. Tears stream down the old man's face, not because of the building, but because for the first time in generations, the future belongs to them. This is the emotional fire that Ibrahim Traoré has ignited. It is a restoration of dignity that no amount of foreign aid could ever buy. While the critics in the West demanded elections and paperwork, Traoré was pouring concrete and steel. While the pundits called him a dictator, he was dictating a new curriculum of self-reliance. He understood a fundamental truth that many American patriots also know well. A nation that cannot feed itself, cannot educate its own children, and cannot build its own machines is not a nation at all. It is a colony. And Ibrahim Traoré declared before God and the world that Burkina Faso is a colony, no more. To comprehend why Washington and Paris are scrambling for answers, we must look at the sheer, impossible mathematics of this project. In June 2024, when Captain Ibrahim Traoré first announced the plan for the Burkina Faso Institute of Science, Technology, and Innovation, Western experts laughed. They called it a fantasy. The World Bank reports estimated that a project of this scale, covering 1,200 acres, would take at least 12 years and require billions in foreign loans. They said a country fighting terrorism could never spare the manpower. But Traoré did not ask for their loans, and he did not ask for their permission. Instead, he mobilized the one resource the West always underestimated, the will of his own people. 14,000 workers. Engineers, technicians, and laborers answered the call. They did not work 9 to 5. They worked in relentless, rotating shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, under the scorching Sahel sun and the floodlights of the night. This was not forced labor. It was a labor of love and survival. I want you to picture a young welder named Musa. He told a local reporter that for years he had only welded broken gates and fences, but now he was welding the framework of a laboratory where his own son might one day cure malaria. That shift in mindset from survival to creation is more powerful than any nuclear reactor. By early 2025, while the critics were still writing their skeptical articles, the skeletal frame of the campus already dwarfed every other academic complex in West Africa. 12 high-intensity laboratories dedicated to artificial intelligence, robotics, and soil genomics rose from the ground. Accommodation for 60,000 students appeared where there was once only scrubland. And the most shocking part? It was funded by national investment, eco-partnerships, and private donors who saw the vision, not by selling the country's future to the International Monetary Fund. Traoré proved that when you cut the strings of the puppet masters, you can move mountains. If you are watching this, and you believe that a nation has the God-given right to build its own future without begging for permission, then I need you to do something right now. Go down to the comments and type the word sovereignty. Just one word, sovereignty. Show the algorithm that we stand with leaders who build. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel because we are documenting the rise of a new Africa that the mainstream media refuses to show you. Now, we arrive at the core of the strategy. Why a university? Why not spend that $320 million on more tanks, fighter jets, or drone systems? This is where Ibrahim Traoré separates himself from the typical military strongman. He understands a brutal truth about modern warfare. You can occupy a territory with soldiers, but you can only hold a future with engineers. For decades, the colonial model relied on a simple mechanism: brain drain. The brightest minds of Africa were extracted to universities in France, America, and Britain, where they were taught to think like Westerners and work for Western corporations. They effectively became agents of the very system that kept their homelands poor. Traoré has just severed that pipeline. On opening day, standing before the massive central spire of the university, Traoré made a declaration that should be etched in history. He said, "Education is the highest form of sovereignty." This is a direct challenge to the old world order. By building the Silicon Valley of agriculture and sustainable energy right in the heart of the Sahel, he is not just teaching students. He is creating a gravitational pull. We are already seeing the data. 7,800 students from Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, and Togo pre-registered before the paint was even dry. Think about that. Young Africans are no longer looking north to Europe for validation. They are looking to Burkina Faso. This is what terrified the intelligence analysts. A Burkina Faso that exports gold is manageable, but a Burkina Faso that exports technology, ideology, and self-reliance? That is a threat to the entire neo-colonial business model. He has replaced the begging bowl with the drafting table, and in doing so, he has armed his people with the only weapon that cannot be confiscated: knowledge. If the university was a statement, then what happened next was the proof. Just when regional analysts thought they understood the scale of Traoré's ambition, an unexpected shift rewrote the economic map of West Africa. In October 2025, the multinational agri-tech giant, AgriNova Global, was scheduled to break ground on their new West African innovation hub in Ghana. It was a done deal. The contracts were ready. But then, in a move that stunned the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, AgriNova suddenly announced a complete relocation of the project to Burkina Faso. Why? Because their internal data showed something undeniable. The talent was no longer in Accra or Lagos. It was in Ouagadougou. They realized that by partnering with Traoré's new institute, they could access the most concentrated pipeline of STEM talent in the region. This was a humiliation for the Western-backed regimes that had spent decades following the IMF's rulebook, only to be outmaneuvered by a revolutionary government. The reaction was immediate and telling. In Paris, French officials tried to dismiss the project as propaganda, but their silence was deafening when live feeds showed fully operational labs conducting gene mapping on drought-resistant crops. A leaked memo from a French policy advisor admitted that if Burkina Faso succeeds in becoming an educational hub, France loses its last grip on the Sahelian mind. Meanwhile, in Washington, the mood shifted from dismissal to cautious interest. American strategists know that where scientific talent flows, geopolitical power follows. They are now terrified that this university will become a bridge for new alliances. Russia immediately offered cybersecurity training. China proposed solar microgrid partnerships. And India offered 500 scholarships. Burkina Faso is no longer a pawn on their chessboard. It has become a player. And for the United States, this raises an uncomfortable question. If a sanctioned, isolated leader can build the future faster than your allies, maybe you backed the wrong horse. But as the world watched this economic miracle unfold, a darker question began to circulate in the shadows. How is Ibrahim Traoré still alive? We know the history of Africa. We know what happens to leaders who try to cut the puppet strings. Lumumba, Sankara, Gaddafi. They were all silenced. So why has the bullet missed Traoré? The answer goes beyond security protocols and bodyguards. It touches on something that military strategists cannot quantify, but every believer watching this video understands perfectly. Let's speak the truth that the mainstream media is afraid to touch. By all conventional logic, Ibrahim Traoré should have been removed by now. There have been plots. There have been whispers of coups funded by foreign intelligence agencies. There have been attempts to destabilize his inner circle. Yet, every single time, the plot is exposed before it can strike. Every time the weapon is raised, it jams. Why? You can call it luck. You can call it good intelligence. But look at the comments section of this channel. Look at the prayers of millions of mothers and fathers across Africa and the diaspora. There is a spiritual iron dome over Burkina Faso right now. When a leader aligns his will with the will of the people and the will of the Almighty, he becomes very difficult to kill. Traoré is not just a man in a beret. He has become a vessel for a collective prayer. He moves with a calmness that unsettles his enemies, because it is the calmness of a man who knows he is walking a path that was destined for him. They can sanction his economy, but they cannot sanction his spirit. They can block his bank accounts, but they cannot block the blessings of a continent that is finally waking up. This university is not just a building. It is a cathedral of the mind, built by a man who understands that God helps those who help themselves. And as long as he continues to build for the widow, the orphan, and the forgotten farmer, no weapon formed against him shall prosper. This is the divine mystery that has confused the West for 3 years, and it is the secret source of his power. We must end with a sober warning. The construction of this university is a victory, but in the world of geopolitics, a victory often invites a counterattack. History tells us that the empire does not let go of its colonies easily. If the alliance of Sahel states does not consolidate its military integration within the next 3 months, Burkina Faso could find itself facing a new kind of proxy war. Intelligence reports already suggest that foreign powers are looking for weak points in the border regions, hoping to distract Traoré from his educational mission. If they can force him to divert funds from books back to bullets, they believe they can stall this revolution. This is the trap that is being set right now. So, the question remains, is Ibrahim Traoré a dangerous anomaly as the West claims, or is he the inevitable answer to a century of humiliation? When you look at the thousands of students walking into those labs, are you seeing a threat to global security, or are you seeing the birth of a fair partner? The answer depends entirely on whether you believe that Africa deserves to stand on its own feet. If this story has touched your heart, please do not just close this video. We are witnessing a battle between the past and the future, between the chains of debt and the freedom of the mind. If you believe in justice, if you believe in dignity, and if you believe that a rising Africa is part of God's plan for a balanced world, then stand with us. Hit the like button to break the silence. Share this video to spread the truth. And subscribe to the channel, because we will be here to document every step of this journey, where the truth continues to speak. May God bless Ibrahim Traoré. May God protect the innocent. And may God bless the resilient land of Africa, a land of strength, hope, and a will that cannot be broken.